History was full of insane, cruel punishment for the people committing crimes, and even for the one they were accused of. Here are the most horrific, brutal punishment methods from history. Ling Chi, also known as slow slicing or death by 1,000 cuts, was a method of torturous execution practiced in China. The condemned was tied to a post, and bits of skin and limbs were gradually removed one by one, usually culminating in a final cut to the heart or decapitation. It was used as early as the 10th century and continued for nearly 1,000 years. Luckily, it was banned in 1905.
Pinaculia, the punishment of the sack, or pinaculia, was another oddly specific form of execution. It was used in ancient Rome in cases of parricide, or killing one's parents or other close family member. The condemned was sewn into a leather sack with a number of animals, including a dog, a monkey, a snake, and a rooster. Then the whole bag was tossed into a body of water. If the animals didn't kill the alleged murderer, drowning surely would. The brazen bull, a gruesome and cruel instrument of torture and execution in ancient Greece, particularly associated with the tyrant Phalaris of Achragos in the 6th century BC. This life-sized bull-shaped statue of brass or bronze was hollow so the victims could be locked inside its stomach, and a fire blazed beneath it. As the bronze heated up, victims endured excruciating pain as they were slowly roasted alive. Their anguished screams echoed through the bull, sounding like the bellowing of a real bull.
Rat torture, apparently, lives on in the minds of creative types, as it has been featured recently in the film Too Fast, Too Furious and in the TV series Game of Thrones. In this terrifying form of torture, a hungry and/or diseased rat is placed in a bucket on the victim's bare stomach or chest. The bucket is then heated from the outside, and the agitated rat chews its way through the unfortunate person's flesh and any organs it happens to encounter on its way out. Death by boiling. Nowadays, boiling alive is a fate reserved for shellfish. But centuries ago, it was a common method of execution from East Asia to England. The condemned was stripped and then placed in a vat or pot of boiling liquid, usually water, oil, or tar. Or for a more gruesome experience, the offender could be placed in cool liquid and then heated to boiling.
Scaphism was an ancient Persian method of torture and, inevitably, execution. The condemned person is confined between two narrow boats with their limbs and head exposed. The boats are bound together, creating a chamber. The victim is then made to ingest a mixture of honey and milk, which induces diarrhea, and they are covered in honey to attract insects. Over a span of days or even weeks, the victim endures extreme dehydration, exposure, and infections from insect infestations, leading to an excruciating and drawn-out demise.
Keel howling is a form of punishment and potential execution once meted out to sailors at sea. The sailor was tied to a line looped beneath the vessel, thrown overboard on one side of the ship, and dragged under the ship's keel, either from one side of the ship to the other, or the length of the ship. Execution by elephant, historically known as elephant crushing, was a method of execution in various regions, primarily in South and Southeast Asia, during different periods in history. This brutal form of execution involved using trained elephants to crush, maim, or kill individuals as a form of public punishment or execution. The condemned person would often be tied or restrained in some way, and then an elephant would be commanded to either step on them or use its weight to crush the person to death. The practice was intended to be a public spectacle and a means of instilling fear and deterrence.